y'all, it's Gabby. Long time no see. It's been a while since I last uploaded. I was just, dealing with life. There's nothing bad that happened per se. It was just more me focusing on my hobbies, picking up new hobbies, as well as also just hanging out with friends and, touching grass, that sort of thing. And so I really just didn't even have the ability or time to even think about making content, let alone like uploading highly produced content. So I decided to take a break from that. But now I'm back. I didn't want my channel to die, or I wanted to at least maybe potentially revive it. And so I'm here with a more off the cuff kind of video, going back to my roots of just uploading videos where it's more stream of consciousness that weren't very edited. And it was just me just like talking about a particular topic that was of interest to me that day that I thought I could potentially actually add some nuance to. And while this doesn't mean that I won't ever make like highly produced content, like the D'Angelo Wallace video that I made that was scripted, researched, and edited, it's just not necessarily my focus right now, especially since, I actually, if I want to do it, I want to do it in a way that makes the most sense for me, which means, buying certain kind of, potentially certain kind of equipment, like editing software, and then also putting in the time to do that. But for now, what I can really put in the effort into is just making these, well, maybe not shorter because this video could probably be forever, but just making more of these like unscripted stream of consciousness kind of videos regarding a topic that I think a lot about. And so here we are. I'm going to be talking about like parasociality and celebrity and all that, a topic that people constantly talk about all the time. But I find sometimes the conversation to be kind of frustrating. So here I am adding to it. I first want to just talk about in general, like what parasocial relationships really are in essence, because I do find that people will sometimes conflate negative behaviors that fans do with what is inherent to parasocial relationships. And I find that misunderstanding really does, one, lead for a misunderstanding of parasocial relationships in general, and two, really kind of allows people to disengage with fully analyzing their behaviors on social media, especially with regards to celebrities, and really kind of wipes their hands of any kind of accountability for their own actions and responsibility for their own actions that actually are very much so parasocial, but that they don't characterize as such. So I think it's important to kind of just put in the framework already what a parasocial relationship is. And that is basically the relationship that a fan or really just any person interacting with a celebrity has, that is usually kind of a one-way street, because as you as a person consuming the content of a celebrity, like you are able to learn so much more about them in all the different ways that you can, but they don't get to have that same opportunity to do that with you as an individual. They can learn more about fans in a very distanced manner, maybe interacting with fans every now and then. But because there's such a distance, and because there's kind of this unequal nature with regards to the information that you know about the celebrity, or what you can know about the celebrity versus what they know about you, which is what they can know about you, that is basically in essence what the parasocial relationship is going to be. It is very much so a relationship, but is not a relationship that is of equal or as of a similar understanding nature as it would be for you interacting with people in your daily life, like your friends, like your family. And I'll also give a definition of parasocial relationship like here, just because I don't know if I was necessarily the most helpful in describing that, but yes, here it is. And I will find it and I will agree with it. So like a parasocial relationship in that definition isn't negative or positive. It's just kind of describing a phenomenon. It's recognizing that in watching a movie, in consuming, watching a TV show, in watching YouTube videos, you are developing a relationship because you're interacting with something that somebody has produced. And that produced content is conveying some kind of something about the human condition, something about them, something about something. And so that is leading you to develop some kind of an attachment to not only the content that you are consuming, but also to the people that are creating it, especially those that you can directly see, or at least you have a direct tie to the content that you are consuming, right? So that is just what's happening, okay? We do that all the time. And I think people that deny that they have a parasocial relationship is really just kind of denying reality, okay? Because you do. Like you are, even if it's not an intense relationship as it would be for like a stan, like I am, with being a BTS Army, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not having a parasocial relationship, because there's a huge spectrum of parasocial relationships. And people presume, as I was alluding to earlier, and I really just stated earlier, that people presume that the really high end of parasocial relationship, especially when that highly intense attachment allows for people to basically violate celebrities' privacy, or really any person, public figure's privacy, and really it's as a way to like justify them dehumanizing celebrities. Like that is not all that there is to parasocial relationships. There's just like one small facet of what a parasocial relationship could entail for an individual person that has a really unhealthy mentality with regards to the humanity of the people that they support. But I understand why people usually conflate the two, because that's usually how the media will often discuss parasocial relationships, especially in context with discussing, celebrities and scandal or whatnot. And thus, I can understand why people, in reading those things and having that constantly repeated in TikToks and whatnot, will then internalize that and thus think like, well, because I, don't intensely like a celebrity, or even I hate a celebrity, and I'm not going out and doing this stalking or whatever, that I'm not participating in a parasocial relationship. And that's just not true. And so I really think that already people need to be a lot more aware that they are in a parasocial relationship, even if it's not necessarily as intense as, a Sasang fan, okay? Or even if it's not as negative as, or harmful as that, right? Because there's nothing to be gained with not being fully aware of how you're engaging with social media. And so I think it's really important for people to already start, one, recognizing their behavior, and also being able to understand specifically what that behavior is. So already, like, there's nothing wrong with being in a parasocial relationship and you following a celebrity, you keeping up with what they're doing, even if casually, you consuming their music, you're watching their movies, whatever. You're in a parasocial relationship, baby. It is what it is. It doesn't have to be that intense in order for that to be what it is, Like, you don't have to do a lot in order to be considered somebody's friend. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. So already that is one thing that we should get out of the way, is like what a parasocial relationship is, and the fact that you're in a parasocial relationship and you probably don't even recognize it because you have a very narrow view of what a parasocial relationship is. So already we're starting there. And that's fine. I just want that to already just kind of be the framework that we're working with, because I think people just want to think that they're holier than thou, like, well, I don't have parasocial relationships. So it's like, no, but you do. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just human nature. We want to connect with people, and we want to connect with the things that they make. And that's the nature of it, is you're going to form an attachment to that. And that's the nature of a parasocial relationship. It happens, like we do this all the time with people in our lives. So how would that not happen with public figures that we don't have direct interaction with? You know what I'm saying? I don't know why we want to deny that part of reality. However, obviously there's the negative aspect that I discussed, that is a lot more understanding of well, maybe not our, but a general understanding of like parasocial relationship is that really negative, very specific negative view of parasociality is the stalking, right? Is the Sasang behavior, which is, if you're unaware, is Sasang fan is usually it's a fan within K-pop, but specifically in Korea, where it's a Korean term, where they are a stalker of their favorite idol. They are not only like following them around, there's a whole industry of Sasangs where they are buying private information about what house that they bought, or when they're going to be going on a plane and have one plane. All of that, like buying phone numbers from people, having a whole industry where you can even buy the, specific numbers of celebrities. Like that is, woohoo, that is a whole thing that I did not have the time to get into. But that's where that term comes from, and that's why I use it. I'm in the K-pop community, I hear it. But anyway, that's what people think about with like negative parasocial relationships. But I don't think people realize, like, this is why people don't want to use that term, and why they don't want to like actually recognize they have an attachment to a celebrity. It's the fact that they don't recognize that wanting accountability for celebrities, like wanting celebrities to do right by you, feeling entitled to celebrities taking responsibility for their actions, even when I can understand that notion in general in terms of the social contract and wanting that same thing for people in your lives. Like, I don't think people are recognizing, like, part of the reason why you want that is not because you want justice, or it's not just because you want justice, but it's because you have a parasocial relationship with these celebrities. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to let you know this if you didn't know, but like, I'm telling you that because like people want to think that they're objective and they're completely detached from celebrity and completely detached from parasociality because they're not a Sasang, they're not obsessive in that perspective because they're like, they really love a celebrity. It's like, no, you may not be that way, but you may be surveilling their content a lot to like wait for them to do something fucked up for you to call them out on it. You know, you may be obsessively tagging them or adding them or discussing them to like hope that they are going to be apologizing for something that you think that they done wrong. You know, it could be you starting a whole campaign to get people to know about certain things that a celebrity has done because they did something you didn't like. And so you're deciding to go through all of your old social media to find something to call them out on. Why does that not sound like being a stalker to you? Why does that not sound like violating somebody's privacy when it's under the guise of social justice? And why is that not an intense attachment that you are putting on a celebrity to do those actions? Oh, because you don't think of it as a parasocial relationship, and thus you don't think of it as being weird. And you think because it isn't this really negative behavior, that is the one view of it, you think that you can't be doing anything wrong, and thus nobody needs to really be that critical of those actions. That's what it is. And that is really what gets me about this. You know, like, just call a spade a spade. You can still say, like, you know, I know I'm in a parasocial relationship, and that's part of the reason why I feel so intensely about the harm that you've done, or maybe the harm that I perceive that you've done. Like, I get that. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do both. You can want justice for victims, right? Like, you can want that. And also recognize in part why you're thinking so intensely about these specific instances is because you have a parasocial relationship. Okay? At least in some of these instances. Like, obviously, I'm not equating wanting justice for, like, the alleged victims of, like, Russell Brand, for example, and how he allegedly used his power and influence not only to abuse people, but also to make sure that nobody discussed his abuse openly. Like, that's one thing to want justice for that, because that's like that's a wider scale of something, and those actions are really severe. I'm not saying that you shouldn't want justice for that. I'm not saying that because you want justice for that, it means you're in a parasocial relationship with Russell Brand. I don't necessarily think that that's true. Granted, that doesn't mean that the parasocial relationship isn't involved. I'm just saying I don't want that to make it seem like I'm discrediting that per se. It's just more of me recognizing, like, in part why, like, we have the same kind of desire for justice for these, rightfully so, for these situations of celebrities abusing their power and then outwardly abusing people, to, like, wanting celebrities to be held accountable for, like, a racist tweet that they said, like, 10 years ago. Like, these are not equivocal. They are not the same. They are not. And people don't want to recognize that they are treating things with the same kind of gravity, or at least they're acting like they have the same kind of gravity, even when they don't specifically say that, because they have a parasocial relationship, right? And thus they perceive that these things are outwardly really horrible, negative things to be accused of and to do to a person, as being just as hurtful and harmful to you as an individual, as if they had, you know, tweeted something like bigoted or whatever, like years ago. Not to you as an individual and you directly as a person, and not something that is, like, as directly harmful as the things that Russell Brand is accused of. But it feels that way because you have that relationship with them, and thus you have a certain expectation of them because of that relationship that you have built, because of that persona that you have built of them. And that's kind of a tough pill to swallow, because I recognize that we want to hold people accountable. We want to do that in our own individual lives with the people that we know in person, we know personally. And I get the impulse to want to do that with celebrities. But I do think part of the reason why we even want to do that so intensely with celebrities is because we are forgetting that we have such an intense relationship with them. You know, it's not just about the fact that they, you know, we're calling a spade and recognizing their influence. It's like, you do realize, like, we are wanting to do this because we feel really slighted by them. You know, not because they did as much harm as we think that we did, but because it feels like that harm is really big because it involves us in some way. That's kind of what I just want people to be a little bit more honest about, you know? Like, again, that doesn't mean you shouldn't call out celebrities, you know, for saying something, especially recently, that's bad. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And obviously celebrities should have, like any human being, the space to grow and learn from that and to hopefully not repeat those kinds of things. And obviously I'm not saying that, you know, what a celebrity does doesn't matter. But I am saying that you can't just hide under the guise of, like, wanting social justice when you are calling for not only, you know, people to just kind of recognize that they did something wrong and apologize, but are actively calling for people to not be a part of movies because of something minor that they did, to ask for everybody else involved in their life to hold them accountable by not associating with them anymore or publicly giving their commentary about it. It's like, guys, at a certain point, you got to recognize that this is not proportionate. This is not proportionate to what actually happened. But it feels like that because of the attachment that you have. That's all I'm saying. And if you were more honest about it, if you were just more reflective of like what is allowing you to treat celebrities in this kind of way, both in the sense of feeling entitled to every single thing that they do and say in the like sauce-saying realm, but also entitled to them acting as the most morally upstanding people ever. Like these are two sides of the same coin. In fact, they're on the same side. They're on the same side. And so I just think that it would be really helpful in just kind of recognizing that that's what's happening. And hopefully what I would want people to do is really just start treating celebrities as human beings, like truly. Because this is what part of the reason I wanted to make this video is because I don't think people recognize like the way that they go about dehumanizing celebrities with regards to obviously the saucing behavior with the obsessively surveilling people's tweets and what they're doing and saying to figure out anything they can about who they are as people, and even worse, doing what they can to find out where they live or find out where they are outside of like public schedules and thus finding them there. Like that, bad. Anyway. And also the whole like surveilling people's content to see when they've done something wrong so they can be like, morally righteous to say that they called them out and be on the right side of history. Like that kind of stuff does not stop at celebrities. It doesn't. You want to think that it does. And I understand wanting to think that. But it doesn't. And I think our own proof of that is just how easily we feel entitled to people in public. Like, oh my God, the amount of like TikToks that I see of people just like filming people in public, the amount of times that I have seen people just like documenting private conversations that people have had in like a public sphere that obviously nobody's paying attention to, but you decided to like publicly blast them for that. And then you want people to go out and find the people that they're talking shit about behind their back to let them know about that. Like, oh my God, like, this is the same shit. This is how you're treating celebrities, and now you're treating it to just regular people. This is insane, unhinged behavior. Like I saw another tweet also that went viral about like, I think it's weird when people don't want to have their location on for their friends to know where they are. Huh? No. Are friends entitled to knowing where you are at all times? But why? People should be allowed to have privacy, and wanting privacy and wanting to have those boundaries does not mean you're hiding something, and it doesn't mean that somehow that your friends aren't your real friends, because you don't want them to know where you are. Huh? Why? See, this is what I'm saying. Like this kind of mentality. Oh my God, it's so toxic. It's not just toxic for celebrities, which I understand have more resources to be able to be like somewhat insulated from this, even though I still think that it is very difficult to be a celebrity. Okay. But oh my God, like human beings do not have the capabilities, like when they don't have the kind of power and influence and resources that celebrities have, to really insulate themselves from this, because this is unhinged behavior that you can't escape if you're just a regular person. It's one thing to be like, you know what, you can like say something on social media if you're a celebrity, and hopefully it'll lessen a little bit, and you have the ability to hire security to get a better surveillance system and to just better get people to surveil your content, to block people or whatever. Like you have the ability to do that, as well as you have a lot more financial resources to like sue people. But you as a regular human being, like a regular human being, but you as like a regular person, as in a non-celebrity person, you don't have the ability to do that. And so now we are now normalizing this behavior of like filming people without their permission, of documenting their conversations without their permission, of taking photos and making commentary about them without their permission, of making public comments about their looks and whatever without their permission, even though they're posting public content. Like we are now so easily dehumanizing people. And part of that is honestly just social media in general normalizing this, because these tweets go viral. These kinds of discussions go viral. People want to have the drama. They want the messiness, because they're just honestly treating human beings as some characters in a show, and not the human beings that are deserving of dignity and deserving of privacy and respect. And people don't want to make that connection, because that's where it is. That's what it is. You thought you can just make some kind of qualifiers like, oh, they're celebrities, they have influence, like we have a right to call them out, and it was going to stop there. Once you start justifying the boundary breaking of a person, once you've allowed yourself to even get to that point where you find that is okay, you will stop at nothing to continue to do that. There is no morally justifiable reason to surveil people. There is no morally justifiable reason to invade somebody's privacy. There's no morally or ethical justifiable reason to be this entitled to where people live, to where people are currently at all walks of life, to know about their opinions on every single thing, to learn about their identities, whether they be sexual or gender or otherwise. You are not entitled to these things. But no, social media and the normalization of dehumanization of celebrities and the way that we've gone about like accountability in these spaces has allowed you to think that. Because you're like, well, I need to, basically you're looking for a chance to hold somebody accountable, and now you've been like, well, now we just have to be looking at people at all times every day. Always. We need to make sure that they're actually who they say they are. We need to make sure they actually have the mental illnesses that they say that they do. We need to make sure they actually are this good friend that they say that they are. And for what? Is this actually how we create a society where people feel comfortable living their lives and actually get to treat people correctly? No, it's not. But here we are. And so I've just been increasingly frustrated by this because I don't really think that people want to like recognize that's what's happening, And I do really think that actually if you really want justice, you are going to have to recognize that some of the ways that you go about it aren't necessarily creating the world that you think that you deserve to live in, and aren't necessarily going to help in the wider context. Sure, you can help give accountability for this one particular person and these particular victims. But are you creating a society that really allows people to be treating people correctly in general? Are you voting for politicians that are actually actively campaigning for certain policy proposals that are actually going to hold people accountable that are doing a lot more harm on a day-to-day basis? Are you going to help create a society that really allows for justice in the way that's uncomfortable, that doesn't involve revenge? I don't know. I don't really know if you're doing that. I really think that you want instant gratification, or some of you do, want instant gratification, and you don't ever want to think very critically about your own actions. You want a very black and white, uncomplicated, unnuanced view so that you don't really have to think. That's it. And that's what bothers me. You need to be thinking about your actions and how they're affecting not just other people, but also yourself and how you are moving about the world. And so, yeah. I got really angry toward the end. I'm sorry. But there's just more. That's really what I was thinking about recently. And it really just saddens me how we feel so entitled because social media has made our lives so accessible to things that we don't post on social media, that we feel that now we should post about. Like we should be upfront about our identities and our where we live and all that jazz and taz, because people feel like they need to have all this context in order to really respond to you. Or they feel like, if you are speaking from experience, whatever, like if they don't know specifically all the identities in order to validate that experience, like then they can't really take you seriously. And I don't think that that's safe or that's helpful. So it's just, man, like, my God, if we just let people live, if we just kind of take things one day at a time and have like an overarching view of like what we should do with regards to justice and holding people accountable, and also allowing for restorative justice, I feel like it would be a lot harder to do. And it would involve a lot more case-by-case basis things in terms of like the judgment calls that we make. But it would allow for a lot more nuance, and it would allow for less toxicity in the world, I think. But we're not there yet because people don't want something uncomplicated, and people are not being self-reflective enough to recognize that's what it is. So, yeah, those are just my thoughts as of late. I recently got like even more incensed about it when, I can't remember what I said recently at the beginning of this video, but I recently got incensed with this because I saw people were like documenting the deleted tweets of Nicholas Galitzine and documenting how many tweets that he had deleted, documenting who he was following, as well as also for both Nicholas Galitzine and Taylor Zakar Perez, which were the two leads in the recent Red, White, and Royal Blue film adaptation. That's on Amazon Prime. They were also posting old photos and videos from before they were famous. And I was like, oh, this don't seem good. Like, I get you like these people, and I do too. I follow them on social media. I got Amazon Prime to watch them in the movie. I am not immune. I know who I am. But I'm not doing that. And I think that kind of shit is scary. That's creepy. Like, they deserve to have that privacy, you know? Like, I understand if it was publicly available, maybe, but even then, no, I'm not even gonna open that door, because like, you are like obsessively surveilling their content and seeing what changes that you can find, and you are not allowing them the peace of just being a human being, in addition to being a celebrity that is now getting a lot more fame. So to me, it's just that was irritating to see in the year of our Lord 2020. When, you know, I thought, especially since there is overlap in the red, white, and royal blue community of people that are K-pop fans, or even BTS Army, and, you know, fans of BLs, and I'm like, girl, guys, people, and MBs, I thought we learned. I thought we've learned from this. Like, if you're in these fandoms, we've had these conversations over and over again. But no, you don't want to think critically about your actions. You don't want to think critically about yourself. And you really just don't want to ever think that you're doing anything bad. And that's, here we are, repeating the cycle. Luckily, I know this is the majority of the behavior in the red, white, royal, and blue fandom, nor do I think it's the majority of behavior of any kind of fandom. But it is sad that I keep seeing it happen. And it is sad that this is not isolated to celebrities. This is very much so becoming a trend in social media of being also just surveilling of normal people in their day-to-day lives. And I don't like it. It's bad. It's bad for humanity. And we're really just like kind of doing the government's work for us in terms of constantly surveilling our actions. And then just now, because they are constantly watching us and we're constantly being surveilled, we also are having to then change our actions to presumably anticipate being filmed at any point. But also, now that we are being filmed on points and times, now the government has even more of an ability to track what we're doing and potentially to use that against us at any point. Awesome, great, cool. I know that's kind of a blip and that involves a whole other video in and of itself, but it's bad. The panoptification of social media is bad. Anyway, but yeah, that's what like recently like got me more incensed about talking about this. And I'm glad that a lot of people are in the fandom calling it out and whatnot. And obviously, this is something that isn't much of a problem in calling it out, I guess. But I think I also wanted to bring this up because I've also been recently reflective of the parasocial relationship that BTS have with Army, and just how it's so refreshing to see a celebrity be so open about having to be a celebrity and having to be an artist in the public eye, and also wanting to grow as a person, and also recognizing like my fame is due to the interactions that I have with Army and being able to connect them, and just talking about the kind of insecurity that can bring with like being able to grow as a person while still being in the public eye, but still wanting to create music, and how can you really go about all of these things at the same time? And it was just so refreshing to see members of BTS talk about that and be open about their boundaries and be like, do not send me food at my house, which I can't believe they even have to say, but do not send me food at my house. Don't follow me out in public. Don't let people know that where I'm at if we meet in public. Like, we didn't meet actually, you know? And generally fans have been really receptive to that. And I also have just loved seeing that BTS not only is recognizing in general of like what fans have done for them, they actually want to follow fans. Like, they actually do want to consume content made by Army. Like, for example, Taehyung of BTS, he was like, I don't really have a lot to watch because Armies are not posting vlogs anymore. I'm like, what's up with that? And we're like, excuse you. But you know, it was just so nice to see that they genuinely want to like individualize the fan base as much as possible and personalize that fan base. And so to me, it was so great to be able to see that not only a parasocial relationship in general would be great in terms of like what Army has done within the fandom to be really respectful of BTS, but for us to like get more engaged with the things that BTS talks about in their music, like in politics, like in gender and social issues, like with regards to understanding ourselves better and respecting ourselves and our time. It has just been so great how like their music has allowed not just for healing within ourselves, but for potentially also growing as people and being able to grow with them. And I found that has been really helpful for me as a fan, but also for many other Army. And then also to see how BTS is learning from Army in specific, being able to talk about the things that we've done, like knowing the memes that we have made about Army and about BTS, like knowing the content that we created, the fan art, like literally having, for example, Jimin of BTS being inspired by BTS fan art to get moon tattoos of the phases of the moon on his back, which, by the way, iconic fan art. I will post it here. Like, insane. To be that influenced by that and that integrated into like the fandom and being that aware of what's going on is just honestly so rare to see. And to also be that respectful of what Armies are making and being respectful of that relationship it's just really cool. And I love that even though it's still a parasocial relationship, it's never going to be completely a two-way street in the same way that it would be, with me interacting with my friend, having a conversation in real time. It is so nice to see that they're doing what they can to really meet us where we're at, to not only understand that we love them, but to also be like, I love y'all just as much, and I want to be involved in your lives. I want to see the content that you make, and I want to be able to promote it as much as possible. And that, to me, is a really beautiful thing. And that's where like parasocial relationships and being respectful of boundaries, being respectful of the humanity of the people that you follow, as well as also the people that support you, it's such a rare thing to have. And I just hope that people can look to that parasocial relationship and really just kind of recognize that there are ways that you can go about this in a healthy manner and still be well-adjusted, and still be generally understanding of your growth as an individual person, and recognize like where your limits are as a human being, as well as also as a celebrity, and hoping that fans will also recognize that, and also being very much so happy that fans are actively reciprocating that. So yeah, like I'm that gives me hope, that there are people out there that are recognizing that, and hopefully, obviously, with being understanding of that relationship, they can also influence other people, as well as also, that can be influencing the other relationships that they have, like the parasocial relationships that they have as well. And I know that definitely being in this parasocial relationship with BTS has definitely allowed me to also be aware of that, right? And I'm really glad that I was also able to be more aware of that kind of stuff as a person. Anyway, but yeah, that's it. Those are my thoughts, right?